Right, now anyone who's watched enough stylish English dramas knows that it takes a lot to argue your case in court.
Yes, you shout, "Objection, Your Honour," every now and then, throw in a couple of witty quips to get the jury on side, and then win the case in record time and retire on the millions you're awarded in damages.
Yeah, if only. With the government proposing big changes to the legal aid system, Dom Littlewood has been looking at the much more serious reality of standing up for yourself in court.
Order in the court.
Despite the familiar image in Hollywood films of plucky underdogs representing themselves in court, in reality, very few of us are brave enough to do it. The official term for someone representing themselves in court is litigant in person, and veteran peace protester Lindis Percy is one of them. Even though her activities are always peaceful, she's often found herself on the wrong side of the law. Due to lack of funds, she's been representing herself in court for years.
If you haven't done it before, it's a totally new experience. You're ignorant about it. It's scary because you're up against this whole system and these characters who are professionals. They do it all the time, every day of the week. You know, you have to think on your feet.
Since the 1950s, the legal aid system has provided representation to those who would otherwise have to consider representing themselves. But now, there are government plans to slash £350 million from its budget. And if access to legal aid becomes more difficult to come by, both the Bar Council and the Judges Council warn that those cuts could lead to huge rises in people representing themselves. And that, they say, could be a disaster. Both councils are warning that this in turn could result in the system being clogged up by amateur barristers who will inevitably make mistakes. And whether or not lawyers just want to keep themselves in a job, the statistics are not promising. According to incapacity case figures last year, twice as many people without legal representation lost compared to those who did have a lawyer. The thing is, in the Hollywood movies, they make it look so easy, and you hardly ever see anybody lose when they take on the establishment and they represent themselves. Is it not like that?
It's a wonderful story. It's a super challenge, the little man against the state. Of course, they've got a script. There's a real risk that they will have a lot of material and they're not able to help the judge to cut through it and work out where the important points are in all of those papers. This can lead to cases taking much, much longer than they ought to. It can lead to injustice.
And we're not just talking about criminal cases here either. Many of us could find ourselves in court for civil cases, such as child custody or divorce. Now, you may not have broken the law, and you're unlikely to find yourself going to prison. But the outcome of the case could still be very life-changing, and you wouldn't want to mess it up. Over the years, Lindis has represented herself more than 30 times, and when things have gone her way, it's been tremendously empowering.
Being successful, hearing the magistrates or jury or whoever listen to it all and then come back after they've discussed it as to how they're going to come down, guilty or not guilty, say, "We find you not guilty." And I just want to give them a hug.
If you do end up representing yourself, get advice from your local law centre or Citizens Advice Bureau. You can also take an advisor with you who doesn't have to be legally qualified. Weigh up your options before you decide to speak up for yourself in court. You see, the amateur barrister may well win his day in the Hollywood movies, but reality and fiction can prove very different in practice.
Absolutely. Well, Alan, are you the kind of guy that would relish that challenge of standing up for yourself?
Yeah, I would. Like talking about the sort of moviness of it, the theatre of it. I would like to. I would be like, I want to know the truth. Things like that.
Yeah.
But I've never. I wanted to do a deposition.
Yeah.
But I was surrounded by lawyers.
Yeah.
Right.
Practically like a scrum of them.
Okay, well, Dom's here, of course, and Dom, if you're not a Hollywood actor, can anybody stand up for themselves in court?
Yes,
in any court, in any case?
Well, anybody can. If you do decide to self-represent yourself, the judges will make allowances for that, and there's also a lot of help out there. There's things like guidance, notes and forms, etc., which you can get. You can either get them online or you can go into any court building and get them. But you have got to remind yourself, why does it take judges, barristers, solicitors so long to train? The fact is, they don't just learn the law, they learn how to apply it. They also learn how to argue it where it's applicable. And for that reason, reason, you know, if it's a big case and you want to fight it, if you can afford it, you know, you're probably better off actually paying an expert.
Yeah, no doubt. There will be some viewers out there who think that some people are getting legal aid who possibly don't deserve it. What would you say to those people?
Well, I know exactly where they're coming from with that, and I hear that quite a lot. You've got to bear in mind, the Ministry of Justice say to us that every year in England and Wales they plough about £2 billion into the legal aid system. Now, for starters, this is not going to affect criminal law. All right, this is only civil cases. So if you're being accused of mugging or murdering somebody and you can't afford legal representation, you'll still be able to get it. Where they're making the cutbacks is for the smaller cases, things like divorce, contract law, child maintenance, that sort of thing. And what they're hoping is that by these cuts, a lot of people might look for alternatives. And by that, I mean things like mediation.
So not go to court at all.
Not go to court. And who's that save money in the long run? The taxpayer, us guys, you know?
Yeah. But there are places you can go, you know, if you do find yourself without representation.
Without a doubt. Now, in the whole of the United Kingdom, of course, we've got the Citizens Advice Bureau. Everybody knows about that.
Yeah.
Go to them first. They'll point you in the right direction if they can't actually help you themselves. Or, what's quite interesting, you're allowed to take a friend along to court. Now, this is called a Mackenzie friend. Now, the idea being that this person is not a legal representative. It's somebody who's there to sort of give you a nudge, remind you if you've forgotten something, help you with your notes, that sort of thing.
Assistant.
Okay.
Exactly. But you mustn't be paying them, because otherwise, you know, they're not technically classed as a Mackenzie friend then.
That might be the way in for you, Alan.
Yeah, but an intern.
Yeah. Thanks for your advice.
No worries.